Good morning, everyone. My name's Beth Keane. I'm CEO of Holocaust Museum LA. Thank you for joining us this morning for this very important conversation. I know that we're all feeling very deeply concerned and upset as we watch the news out of Ukraine. And I am so grateful to my dear friend, Jonathan Ornstein, Executive Director of the Jewish Community Center of Krakow, Poland, where I proudly serve on the board. Thank you, Jonathan, for making time today to share what's happening on the ground. Jonathan, before we get started, first, I just want to say congratulations on the birth of your daughter last month. Between sleep deprivation with a newborn and the stress of working around the clock, you must be beyond exhausted. So I just want to say thank you to you and your team for everything that you're doing for, getting refugees safely out of Ukraine and providing housing, food, and assistance. And before we dive in, I just want to quickly share some background to introduce Jonathan, who served as Executive Director of the JCC Krakow since its opening in 2008. He's a native New Yorker. And in 1994, he moved to Israel, where he lived on a kibbutz and served in a combat unit in the IDF before making his way to Poland in 2001 to lecture at Krakow's Jagiellonian University Department of Jewish Studies. He's a founding member of the Krakow Association of Christians and Jews, where he serves as vice president. He also serves on the boards of the Krakow branch of the Child Survivors of the Holocaust Organization and JCC Global. I know we have a lot of questions, so I'll ask the audience to please type your questions into the chat box. So, Jonathan, I'd like to start off just by asking you, what is the general, sentiment of the Polish community right now? What are you experiencing in Poland? If you could just describe, the situation there. Are people fearful? Are they worried about the war coming to Poland? Like, what is the feeling there?
Sure, I'll get to that. First of all, thank you, Beth. It's always great to talk to you, especially to talk to you in this capacity and to be able to share a little bit about what's going on and have this conversation with members of your community, of your museum community. I'm a big fan of your museum. I've been there many, many times and got to know a lot of people that are involved with the museum and a wonderful group. So it's an honor to be able to speak to you, and thank you everybody for this early start, where for us it's just about Shabbat, and for you it's the start of the day. I'll tell you what, one of the things that has really been inspiring has been the Polish response. And it wasn't an automatic thing. Poland and Ukraine have a difficult history. There's territorial questions, and there are questions about who did what during World War II, and the Germans and the Russians. It wasn't not so easy and not so automatic that the response would be as positive as it was, especially considering there was a recent different refugee crisis on the Belarusian border when the Belarusian government was sending essentially Middle Eastern refugees into Poland, into the EU, and Poland was like, no, wait a minute, no, thank you. So Poland has completely opened its heart and people have opened their homes. It's amazing. I've been here 20 years, as you mentioned. I've never seen anything like it with the Polish people responding to something like this. Everybody's taking people into their homes, bringing food to them, to the border, to different places like our center, and which is collecting material for them. People are in every single way. You see Ukrainian flags everywhere. The government made it very easy for Ukrainians that are coming across to work to get an ID number. So on many, many levels, even something which at the very beginning, which I thought was really sweet, was that, normally the border between Ukraine and Poland is the border between the EU. It's an EU, right? So it's like once you're in Poland, you're in 27 countries and can travel around freely. So that's like a big deal border to begin with. So they made it easier. Normally, if you travel with a pet, your pet has to go through quarantine and you need different certificates, but they made it very easy that if you're coming across with your pet, you can just bring your pet across. So not that that's the biggest thing, but little things like that the government didn't really have to do, I see that they're doing. So while I'm often very critical of this government and have been for a while, I think that they're really trying to do what they can and to support Ukraine. President Zelensky said recently that Poland has been the best friend of Ukraine. So it's a nice thing to be a part of, and all of our efforts against this backdrop of the Polish people united and standing shoulder to shoulder with Ukraine.
Yeah, I have to say that that actually has been a really nice thing to see. I'm curious. I know there's a large, Jewish population in Ukraine, and there are Holocaust survivors even in your community. And I'm, watching the news, and I see young mothers desperately fleeing. And it reminds me of my own grandparents who were Holocaust survivors. And I remember hearing stories of my own grandmother who had to escape Poland after the war, carrying a newborn, my mother in her arms. And my mom was a fat baby. So it must not have been that easy. But how are the Holocaust survivors, coping? And, they must feel good seeing that this time around, they're seeing the world come together.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think that one is the response of our survivors, and also what is it like to be the Jewish community that itself, not only we as Jews worldwide, but this Jewish community here that's still in the place that was a victim of genocide during the Holocaust 80 years ago, and is still here where it happened, and then seeing something like this happen. So our survivor, our older community has been amazing. Our seniors, we kept, our building has really been completely transformed into an emergency services center for refugees coming and going. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But two things that we have kept going are our preschool. And we have little Ukrainian children in our preschool now, which is really sweet. And our senior club, which most other things have been suspended or moved online, and was kind of that way. It's moving during COVID anyway. But the other day I went and sat with our seniors, they're right across the hall in our building and it's a small building. So right across the hall from where the main room when you walk in the JCC, which has tons of material, clothing, medicine, diapers, sanitary products, everything you could possibly want. And all these Ukrainians are coming into our building. We have a huge Ukrainian flags hanging from the building, and it says welcome in Ukrainian across our thing. So you have a lot of people coming in, and the survivors couldn't have been more supportive, and were really so appreciative of what we're doing. And I think that's the whole community. I think the entire community, there's not even a question of whether to respond. It was only a question of how to respond and how much can we do. But certainly there's collective memory beyond the Jewish people of this community that itself is defined by essentially by the aggression of a madman in this part of the world. And we're all incredibly sensitive to that, especially the Holocaust survivors.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to watch because we feel, history could be repeating itself. And even for the first time, Babi Yar is something that's in the news. When students come to our museum, we have a panel on Babi Yar. They, before this crisis, they would just look at it with, glazed eyes. Now they know what Babi Yar is. It takes on a whole new meaning. Yeah. So can you give us a sense? I just want to go back to what's happening on the ground there. We're feeling, on my way to work this morning, I noticed that gas at the pump is now over $6 a gallon, which is crazy. What is it chaotic there? Are there lines, or are people just come and they just want to, help?
No, it's not chaotic in that sense. And I would just say one thing about the gas, because people ask what they can do. And right. I mean, beyond just support. So, I mean, yes, we need financial support. We're, all of those things we're doing, and the needs, and, different ways. But I think one way that people, you mentioned the gas, and this is important, that, the gas is more expensive because the United States is not buying Russian oil and Russian gas. And I think the more that people in the United States have a stomach for that and can say, you know what, I can pay my extra $1 a gallon because it means that it's taking money away from Putin, who's using that money he bombed a maternity hospital yesterday or 2 days ago. So I would say that for Americans, in terms of the gas prices, hold the line, thank your elected officials for supporting that, and the government for doing what it's doing, because politically it's not an easy thing to do in the United States to do something that causes the increase in gas prices. So I would just say that's something that everybody can do, is not say, yay, gas is more expensive, but understand that all the money that this extra cost means that Putin's not doesn't have money to make war on Ukraine. But in terms of Poland, no, I mean, Poland, you feel it here in certain things. For a while, you couldn't get cash in the bank machines. So there started to be, I guess, Ukrainians just coming in and needed cash when they got across the border for whatever reason. So the zloty has weakened a lot, 20% our currency here. So that's made life more expensive and contributed to inflation. But it's not like, people, you go into the stores, it's not like there's no water and no materials. If there are runs on products, then you see them because everybody here is buying those products to bring it to Ukraine and to send it into Ukraine. So that's the only problem. It's not like there's a real run on products for Poles. It's just that there's this incredible desire to support Ukraine. So you go into a store and there's no, Tylenol and no painkillers on the shelves, and you realize that it's just Poles aren't buying it. Poles are sending it to Ukraine.
It sounds like it's really humanity at its best, which is really nice to see.
Yeah.
Can you share with us, I mean, you quickly mobilized as soon as this crisis happened. Can you give us a sense of, what was it like? I also know that I saw from your newsletter yesterday that you actually were with Rabbi Avi yesterday at the
Wednesday. We were at the border.
Right. So, if you can tell us what that was like, and what the people in your organization are doing in terms of help at the border.
Yeah. So maybe I'll separate those things a little and talk about like our response. So first of all, right away, we came in the morning and it was just a question of, wow, we don't know how bad this is going to get. We have no experience in this, but our job, we come to work every day our job is to take care of people and survivors and their family and children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And we're just helping different victims of aggression. And not that we have real expertise in running in a humanitarian effort like this, but we quickly decided that was, it wasn't even a decision. It was just, how do we do that? So we went and bought mattresses right away. We put a sign on the building saying, welcome to refugees. And we had a meeting and decided you're in charge of trying to find housing and you're in charge. We just quickly gave everybody different roles, and we mobilized, and we're 2 weeks into it. And at this point, maybe I'll highlight just a few areas of what we're doing. I think it's sort of been interesting for me on this level of turning an institution, into something else. We completely switched really what we're doing. So we're open 7 days a week as a collection center for items. That means people are bringing all kinds of material here for Ukrainians. 7 days a week, they're coming and receiving those things. We come, we ask them questions. Do you have a place to live? What's the situation? We take all their information. If they have a place to live and they just want some diapers or some clothing, pajamas, toothbrush, whatever it is, we have, literally, it looks like a huge store, huge like general store in our downstairs. So people are taking what they need. We're also dropping food off to other places in the city. Over 2,000 people have come through our building. Ukrainians have come through our building and taken material, taken different supplies. Really, the biggest concern for us, what are the main focus, the thing that's a major challenge for us is housing. So we're currently have hotel rooms, apartments. We're currently 170 as of yesterday. That's probably 180 by now. Wow. Ukrainians, Jews and non-Jews, we are helping everybody that needs help. We do not, we ask, we try to get background information on people because we want to know if they want, Shabbat dinner and things like that, or if they have relatives in Israel, can we help in different ways? Kosher food, but we are helping absolutely everybody. So 170 Jews and non-Jews in hotel rooms and apartments in Krakow. That number is going up all the time. We're feeding them as well. We have an agreement with local restaurant. We provide coupons to these people. They can go to the restaurant and get a meal that we're paying for all of that. We've created a mother and child safe space. So there's one apartment, one apartment. It's like a sort of small 1,500 square foot space nearby that has daycare for about 30 children, and next to it is space for the mothers where they can learn English and Polish. We have counselors going in to help them start to think about to get a job here, psychological counseling. that we're doing all free for everybody. We're partnering to have an information point where it's one of the largest information points in Krakow for Ukrainians. There are 25 native speakers of Ukrainian in there that are helping people. One of the main processing point. We're also doing things at the border and inside Ukraine. So we've partnered with an organization that brings supplies to the border. They have a presence at the border. We just bought tents, huge tents for them. They needed tents and they didn't have the resources. So we bought tents for people at the border, and they're feeding those people, providing them with medical care. They're bringing supplies into Lviv, which is a major city in the west of Poland. And then bringing people, so they bring supplies in and bring people out. We've helped 2,000 people get out of Ukraine in that way, which is just a massive, massive number. The other day, we were able to help 29 buses went in and brought people out. So that was 1,000 people in one shot that were able to come across the border. We're helping with transportation. People walk in and say, I have a cousin in Paris, but I have no access to any money. I can't get there. So we'll buy them a plane ticket, buy them a train ticket, wherever they need to go, send people to Israel. We got a call the other day that there were 45 children with autism that were approaching the border in an hour from the Ukrainian side, and they had nowhere, couldn't get to where they needed to go in Vienna. So we sent a bus. We actually had to be 2 buses because there was protocols and drivers and 3 drivers and 2 buses that went and picked them up from the border and brought them to Vienna, which was 600 mile distance. We're sending a different organization. We're buying medical supplies here on the ground in Poland and sending everything into Lviv, which then gets sent to other places in Poland. We've hired 9 or 10, it's hard to keep track, 9 or 10 full-time people, including 4 Ukrainians. So we have 170 people in hotel rooms. We need to see if they're okay. So we're calling them, we're visiting them. What do they need? We have, there's, somebody has, with very bad diabetes, make sure they have insulin. We're providing all social services to these people. We've hired people just trying to find us hotel rooms and apartments because the city is just overrun. We have 1.4 million Ukrainians have come through Poland. Not all have stayed, and that's all of Poland, not only Krakow, but you're talking about a massive, massive refugee situation that we're dealing with and fully mobilized for that. That's in a big picture. In the big picture, what we're doing, which is a lot. The border is interesting. The border is tragic. Excuse me. On the border. So we went to 2 border crossings. One, we actually went with the rabbi, and we went with the representative of this organization that we're working with, which was interesting because then we could actually go in much farther than we would have gone just on our own. First, we went to like a processing center near one of the border points. And that was the first thing. When buses come across the border, they bring people there. It's one of the places they bring people, and those people are discharged. And then there's like medical care there. There's a lot of tents set up that feed those people right there on the spot. It's like a shopping center. Think of an like a closed down or repurposed shopping center with a massive parking lot in front. And so you go in there, and there's beds set up in a couple of rooms, so a couple hundred people sleeping in there. There's people announcing of rides where they're going. So, 5 people are going to Warsaw. There's room for 5 people to Warsaw, and people are like me, and they go and they jump on that bus. So that in a bus with them. So that's this processing center.
What do people take with them? Like what? How much?
Just like a backpack for children. It's important to remember that these are only women and children, right? If you're a men between 18 and 60 are not allowed out of the country unless with a disability. I think if you have 3 or over 3 children, they let you out, but still you're not seeing many men at all. So you have the added trauma of women that are on their own with children and without the rest of their families, fathers, brothers, husbands, sons, partners, whoever. So that's an added aspect of all this. We then went to the border, to one border crossing, which you see people coming across just at the border on the Polish side. We stayed. People coming across and being helped by different organizations. Different countries have set up tents there and are helping people. So that was interesting to see. But the really interesting thing was at this next border crossing that we went to, because we have a presence there with our partner organization where we've sent these tents and we're sending supplies in, support in, sending supplies in. So we were able to actually cross over into the Ukrainian side. So we spent about an hour on the Ukrainian side, and that was just unbelievable. So you have people that have been waiting. Sometimes they've been on a bus for 70, 80 hours, women with children, no sanitary facilities, bus with no bathroom, no diapers left. And they come to they're at the Ukrainian side of the border. And because you have such masses of people, they very often have to wait another couple of days. So we've helped with tents, put big tents there, heated tents. Doctors are there, medical professionals, there's food, they're getting a hot meal, bowl of soup, and trying to help them there on the border. So it's tragic. It's tragic that today, in 2022, we have the situation going on in the middle of Europe.
Wow, Jonathan,
it's really questions in the chat.
There are a million questions, I know, but it's so incredible what you are doing. And I imagine there's also a language barrier. Not everyone speaks English. I don't know how your Ukrainian is, but I'm sure a lot of your volunteers speak the language.
Well, so there were a lot of Ukrainians in Poland before, which is what's interesting. So Poland, a country of 38 million, which is close to the size of Ukraine population-wise, we had 1.5 million Ukrainians living in Poland before the war. So our Hillel, our students, there were about 25% Ukrainian. So we have Ukrainians here that we've quickly tried to hire some. We have a lot of volunteers. So it's been, there are people here to help with a lot of things because you have so many Ukrainians already in the country. But it's tragic. We have our students. There's a member of our Hillel whose parents are from Kherson. Kherson was the first city a port city in the south, the first city that was taken by Russia. And every day I ask her, how are your parents? And she just goes like this to me with this look. She has no idea. Sometimes she can reach them, not reach them. They were in a bomb shelter for 2 days. They have no food left, trying to send food in. Putin's bombing they say that there's a ceasefire and then Putin bombs it and they can't get food in. It's tragic. The tragedy is what's happening to the people in Ukraine, the tragedy of these refugees, but then these people that are here and we're able to help them, which is miraculous that we can help them. But then they're feeling that their parents and their relatives are still inside Ukraine and very often trapped behind Russian lines, and nothing can be done for them. And it
so
breaks.
Is that why they can't get out? It was already too late. They became trapped.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, there are a ton of questions here, so I feel like I should start looking. Okay. What is the percentage of refugees who are Jewish? Do we know?
Hard to say. No, I don't know. I mean, the country had about 200,000 Jews in a country of 40 million. So a small percentage, but a lot of the Jews, the people who leave in this type of situation, which I had no idea about any of the, I didn't have much idea about any of this before 2 weeks ago. So, but it makes sense that if you think the people that leave first are the people who have a place to go, right? If you're going to pick up and say, there's a problem in my country, I'm leaving. It's because you have relatives somewhere, or you're in a financial position to go and support yourself somewhere else. So a lot of the Jews have relatives in other places, not all of them, obviously, and it's not a wealthy Jewish community. You do have some people, of course, wealthier people, middle-class people, but you have a lot of poor Ukrainian Jews. So we're seeing that the people that left earliest are the people who are, better situated, let's say, so have somewhere else to go. But there are a lot of Jews. We have a Shabbat dinner tonight at the JCC, as we do every week, and we have Ukrainian refugees joining us for the Shabbat dinner.
That's great. Is Kasha cooking? Everyone know that Jonathan's wife is a really good cook.
Really good cook. She did cook, and now she's home with the baby. But I had the baby in the office while she was cooking. I was doing circles with the stroller, circles around the conference room with the baby.
Oh, that's so sweet. So are people hoping to stay short term? When there's so much uncertainty, right? So
yeah, it depends. You're talking about all different things. So some people went through Poland somewhere else. I mentioned these children with autism were just taken through Poland to Vienna because there was an organization in Vienna that had the capacity and was in touch with someone in Ukraine to be able to take them. So 45 children, it was great. They sent video that they're there at the place and thanked us and it was amazing. But so yeah, you're seeing people that are going somewhere else, passing through Poland. You're seeing people that have relatives in Poland or staying in Poland for a specific reason. And then you have people that are just have no plans and no real, idea of where they're going. And we're helping all of them. Anyone who needs it, we're trying.
Which is so great. Is the government giving you any financial support?
The government is pretty burdened doing what they're doing. So the government is directly doing things for the Ukrainians. So as an NGO, we're like on our own, and maybe, in the future when this settles down, if we're continually providing services, we could apply to the government. But, the government right now is overrun. We got a call from the main city, the Center for Refugees is in the train station. And we got a call that there's no food in the train station. And we sent over food that we had in our JCC, we sent it over to the train station. And I was like, wow, if the city is asking us for food, then that's not a good sign. So the government is, I think, we're not, plus things are moving so fast. So we're not in a, we're not talking about applying for grants and the process and the government and the EU, which is a, 6 month process or year long process. And people are asking, maybe I just, say that people are asking, I know Andrea, hi Andrea, so people that I know, some people, Paulette, that I know on the call. It's nice to thank you for joining. People are asking what we can do. The first thing is that we need financial support to do this. We're spending more, and this number is going up. We're spending more than $10,000 a day on housing and feeding these people, which we're obviously not in any position as an organization that's already completely dependent on donations to do. So the need is overwhelming. We need to take care of these people. We need the people around the world, as they have, as many people have already and continue to do, to support us. But we're talking about needs that are massive, and we're thinking short term, we're thinking medium term, we're thinking long term. What do we do with these people? Job training, things like that. We're thinking, but our primary need right now is money that we can then, these places that we've sourced, these hotel rooms, hostels, apartments that we're scouring the city to try to find places so these people do not sleep outside, do not sleep, sleep in the street, do not sleep in the train station. So that's the real pressing need, just because that's costing us a huge amount of money, as you would imagine. And
we should put the link in the chat box for how people can give.
Yeah, and we're a 501c3, just to put it, we have a Friends of organization, which Beth knows very well. We're a New York-based 501c3, so people can make, the tax-deductible donations, individual foundations. We're able to receive donations, and the money comes to us right away. So for money, we get it sent straight away from New York.
That's great. I do want to read Andrea Caton's note to you. She said that you're incredible, having met you and personally being there and done a Shabbat at the JCC. It's beyond incredible how you're handling all this. And I have to agree with her. And she said, please let us know what we can do as a community here in LA. And so everyone heard, we'll add the link in the chat box. There was a question, are you worried that Putin will invade Poland?
Well, so Poland is part of NATO, and according to NATO, an attack on any of the NATO countries, and I think Biden the other day said 1 inch of NATO, so being, emphasizing it, an attack on NATO and any country in NATO is an attack on all of NATO. So if Putin attacks us, it means you guys are also at war with Russia. So if I don't really think about it too much, that something, he seems that he's kind of bogged down in Ukraine. I can't imagine that there are going to be tanks rolling across the border. The real worry here is if it escalates and becomes nuclear war. But then, to be honest, I think LA and Poland are probably in the same situation.
Yeah, so we're all in trouble. If it comes to that, we're all in trouble.
We're all in trouble. So we're pretty happy that we're in NATO. And there are more and more. They keep sending American troops here. So in the east of Poland, not too far from where we are, there are American troops based, and I think Patriot missile batteries, anti-missile rockets.
Right. Yeah, we all know too well what happens when dictators invade sovereign democracies.
And when the world is silent, and I think we're seeing right now the world not being silent, and the world not accepting what Putin is doing on many levels, on a humanitarian level, on an economic sanction level, and I think that pressure works. I don't think the people of Russia you had a large middle class. You had people that are on vacation. You go somewhere in Europe, you see a lot of Russians on vacation and are part of the world, and it's I think that Russia, I don't think the average Russian wants to be living in North Korea.
No.
They don't want to be part of a pariah state, which is what they're becoming. And you would think that this pressure on Putin would lead to some sort of end, ceasefire, or some kind of peace here. But this is not tenable. These people, the suffering is growing by the day.
Do you think there'll be a revolt?
I don't know if there'll be a revolt, like an open revolt. They're arresting a lot of people on the street. We're seeing and getting more information. You know, there's no free press there, which, by the way, shows the importance of a free press. Why, you know, Thomas Jefferson said something like, if you could have a government, a democracy, or, you know, a functioning government or a free press, he would take the free press, just because you see what happens when there isn't a free press. You can do it, get away with whatever you want. I think that there might be a lot of pressure placed on Putin, you know, all these oligarchs, all his cronies that are now, you know, their lives have gotten much worse in the last couple of weeks. And if you're worth, you know, if you're an oligarch, a multi-billionaire Russian oligarch, and you're not welcome anywhere, and you can't spend any of your money anywhere, and you're trapped in Russia, it's not too fun to be, you know, in that position. So you would think that at a certain point, this would have to end, but who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, I'm not feeling sorry for those oligarchs, I'll tell you that. There was a question about emigration to the United States.
Yeah, so we're helping people where they want to go. We're in talks with there's different people saying they want to sponsor people. I talked to somebody in Colorado. So yeah, we're receiving that information, and then, you know, it's a question of what the State Department, you know, of course, if the United States lets in 50,000 Ukrainians, you'll have 50,000. If they let in 5,000, you'll have 5,000, because in the normal state of affairs, there are people that always want to go to the US. So we'll have to see what the decision will be. I know Israel's taken in a lot of Ukrainian non-Jewish refugees besides just Israel, people who have the ability to make aliyah. So yeah, we're helping people all over. There was somebody, I mean, even in the sense of somebody, a friend texted me, the Jewish community in Metz in France is ready to take people. There's a bus going there now. If you have anybody who wants to go to France, we'll help with them. So I mean, it's really, you know, it's this chaotic situation of just people reaching out, and we're trying to be a convener, a facilitator, and matching need to resources.
Well, you can definitely find people in our community who will want to help. So let us know. There's a question, a very important question about this year's Ride for the Living. And just for the audience, Jonathan's organization sponsors this amazing bike ride. It's called the Ride for the Living, where you ride from Auschwitz to Krakow. It's a 60-mile bike ride that I did 3 summers ago with a group of people. Absolutely life-changing experience. And I know there's supposed to be a group from Los Angeles who are going this summer. So
there is a group with ICAR coming this summer. As of now, yes. Listen, we don't know. We feel, you know, Poland is safe. We think that this will have to, just for the reasons that we've talked about, you know, I don't think this can just continue indefinitely. There'll have to be some sort of resolution. I almost said revolution. That would also be okay. We'll take either revolution or resolution, but there'll have to be something. So yeah, the ride is safe. Poland is safe. And we think that, listen, the Ride for the Living is a response to tragedy. And the response to tragedy is always to move forward. And I think that, you know, for me, when I look at the ride, assuming it's safe and we're not in, you know, some catastrophic military situation, then I think the ride is even more relevant and even more necessary, because the ride is showing the strength and resilience of people, of the Jewish people, of people in general, that we don't allow ourselves to be defined by tragedy, that we always move forward. And I'm, you know, I think that, you know, we're finalizing the jersey design, and we incorporated the Ukrainian flag onto our ride jerseys this year. So it's something is very much on our mind today, and I think will be very much on our mind for the long term. You know, I think this will transform our community. A lot of Ukrainian Jews will stay here in Krakow and will join our community, and that will be another thing for us, a challenge, how to integrate them into the community. But that's a wonderful thing. We want our community to grow. We're sad that it's war that will affect this. You know, and in some ways, I think about being Jewish and all of this, and the Jewish response, the generosity that I see is amazing, and helping Jews and non-Jews in some way. The Jews, I'm more worried about the non-Jews. I mean, the Jews are my people, so I'm concerned about that. But you know, we have memory of being displaced and of having to move to one place to another, and we have, you know, we're really all like a big family. But the rest of the world doesn't have that as much as we do. And I think that in cases like this, there's a particular responsibility among Jews to care for non-Jews, just because they don't have the support network that we do.
Mm-hmm. I agree. We all have a shared responsibility in that. Absolutely. Maybe we can put in the chat box the link for Ride for the Living in case people are interested. Now that they know it's safe to go to Poland, but you're absolutely right. It's important to rise up and rally in these types of situations. Someone wanted to know the name of the organization that you talked about in Vienna that was helping the students.
Oh, helping maybe Sebastian is on the call. Maybe he knows. I'm not sure. We were working with a partner here on the Polish side who was then in touch with this group, and they said, oh, to Vienna, but I'm not sure. We weren't in direct contact with this group, with the organization that accepted the children with autism. So I'm not sure. Maybe we can figure that out and let somebody know. But we were never in touch with them directly. We were in touch. We did it. There's a Jesuit university here in Krakow, and we do a lot of work with them. They're involved in a lot of sort of not interfaith stuff only, but a lot of good humanitarian work. So we've been partnering with them, and we're in constant touch. Oh, do you have this? We need that. We have this possibility. So they let us know about this, the Jesuit university, that they asked us to if we can help with that.
So you gave us a sense of the numbers of refugees, but how many people are actually volunteering on your end?
How many are volunteering? It's a good question. I go downstairs and there's like 40 people down there that I don't know, which tells me a lot.
Wow.
There must be 50 people volunteering at this point, Ukrainians, local Ukrainians. We had people, it was, our community members, all different people. We had people that I saw once I was downstairs and a rabbi was talking to somebody, who was telling the story. Oh, we just got off. The guy was Turkish and his girlfriend was Ukrainian. They were living in Ukraine and they came from the edge, like the far side of Ukraine. They were on a bus for 72 hours. They crossed the border. I don't even remember how long they were on the border. And they came into Krakow and we were like, what can we get you? What do you need? Do you have? And they go, no. They came to us to volunteer to help other Ukrainians. And we're trying to help these people. And They just like, no, we're okay. We're the ones that are okay. We want to help others. So, at times like this, you really see what the amazing generosity of the human spirit.
That's amazing. In your newsletter, you shared there was a video of you speaking to a young woman who was at the border.
It's great. Yeah, that was amazing.
It also, it brought tears to my eyes because I realized she was traveling alone.
Yeah.
The young
so that was amazing. Maybe I'll tell that. So that was just one of those cool kind of things that happened. So we're on the Ukrainian side of the border. There are a ton of people around waiting. It's cold, snowing a little bit. And one of the guys I was with who came from this organization that we work with called World Jewish Relief, which was actually the ones who built the JCC, but they're doing a lot of humanitarian work around the world. So they sent their humanitarian coordinator, like their expert, to come over to help us. So we went to see the border together. We're on the Ukrainian side and I see him speaking to somebody in English. So I go over and I say, oh, hey, how are you doing? What's going on? And this woman starts to tell me that she is from Kiev, and she says she's traveling. I said, "Where are you going?" And she says, "Well, I wanted to go to Warsaw, but the bus was full, and there was only one spot left on one bus, so I'm going to Krakow." And I said, "Well, that's amazing. We're from Krakow, actually." And I said, "Do you have a place? Do you have a place to go? Where do you have friends? Do you have anything?" She goes, "No, I don't know anybody. I have nothing. I'm just with my cat." And we're getting on the bus. Hopefully, whenever it leaves, we're going to go to Krakow. And I said, well, we're from the Jewish Community Center. We're helping refugees. And, I took her information and I said, when you get to Krakow, you have a place to stay and come see me and we'll help you. We'll help you with every way that you want. So she said, great. And then we said goodbye and we left. And then yesterday she came into our building. Her name was Nona. She came into our building and talked. She said, yeah, she crossed the border and we told her where to go. And there was a hotel room waiting for her. And she's she's great and so appreciative and couldn't be happier is not the case, but really amazed by
grateful. She's truly, I just,
and
it was emotional to see that.
To see both sides. You don't expect to have, you're helping people and those people come, but you don't see somebody on the border who has absolutely no idea. Not that we have given her so much, but at least given her some, a place to stay and a little bit of, dignity, and cared about her and her cat. So it was just nice to see her on both sides. It was like seeing an old friend when she walked in the building, which is really cool because I know.
Yeah. And I'm sure it meant the world to her. I mean, it's hard to imagine. I have a daughter exactly the same age, so I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Jonathan shared the link to that story in the chat box.
It's funny because Sebastian's on the call with me, but he's registered.
Okay.
He's logged in. So it seems like I'm being very active, and I
was wondering.
Oh no, I wish I was able to multitask the way that it looks, but it's not me. Andrea's asking, can I give the history of the JCC came to be? Who funded it? It's an interesting. Yeah, it is an interesting story. Thanks, Andrea. So we were founded. We opened in 2008, but we were founded by Prince Charles. Which is its own sort of bizarre story. He was in Krakow in 2002, visiting the Jewish quarter, and he met with some Holocaust survivors, and he was very moved by their history. First, they survived the Holocaust, then they lived through the difficult communist period, and he said, "How can I help you?" And they said, "Well, we have synagogues, we have all that. What we don't have is a place to be together, like a senior citizens center." So he said, "I promise I'm going to help you." And then he went back to the UK and he got involved with an organization called World Jewish Relief, as I mentioned earlier, which is involved around the world in a lot of humanitarian efforts and Jewish and non-Jewish. And they did a bit of research here, and they realized that it wasn't only this older survivor community that was part of it, but there were also young people who were finding out they're Jewish, who grew up without knowing they're Jewish and were coming to their Jewish roots and to their Jewish identities in all different ways. Including my wife, who I actually met here.
I was going to point that out if you hadn't.
So it's a cool story, very personal for me. So they came up with this idea of building a JCC, something not only to serve the older people, but to serve the younger people, to serve as a hub and maybe to have a place for people to come in and meet other Jews and to rebuild this community that's been gone through such tragedy. And Prince Charles said, okay. He gave some money. They were able to raise the rest of the money in London. And in 2008, Charles and Camilla came to Krakow and opened our center, spent the whole day with us. I was Prince Charles's host. That was very, very cool. Nice Jewish boy from Queens, fast talking Jewish boy from Queens, spending the day with Prince Charles. Pretty cool. But so he takes an active interest. He's still involved in the sense that we send reports to Clarence House. He has become since then the patron. So he's officially the patron of World Jewish Relief. So he's still involved in that sense. He's not, I'm not calling him, daily, but I have met with him in London and briefed him about what we're doing. He was so excited about the preschool. I can tell you that he was over the moon about the preschool. His eyes lit up and his smile across his face. And he said, I'll tell you what, he said, I never would have imagined that we would have gotten to that point where we'd be needing and being able to open a preschool. So that was pretty cool.
I hope he knows about the work that you're doing right now.
I'm sure someone will let him know.
I hope so. You don't have his personal phone number? You should.
Don't have it. I don't have it. If I did, I would put it in the chat.
Okay. I think there was a question about, can Americans come there to help?
Can Americans come to help? I mean, I think that now it's taking up a little bit of the resources in the city. So if somebody says, I'm going to come here and take a hotel room, then I'd say, pay for the hotel room and don't come, and we'll put a refugee family there. So we have hands here on the ground. If people had specific skills, if you're a doctor, if you speak Russian or Ukrainian, if you're an emergency services expert, a background in that and can help logistically, then maybe. But if not, it's really not exactly what we need people. If you want to get involved in a big way and you have the resources to do it and want to see for yourself, then maybe. But just, what we're needing is not, spread the word, help people in the United States know about what's happening here. I guess everybody does. If you want to, do a bake sale, raise some money, for us, for other organizations that are doing good things. But I think, a lot of people here is not what we need right now.
Okay. That's really helpful to know, because we are actually getting a lot of inquiries about that.
Yeah,
So,
as am I. As am I. Yeah.
That's very helpful. Jonathan, this was amazing, and we are so appreciative. Thank you so much for sharing everything that is happening there. You really are doing incredible work. I don't know how you're awake right now with everything that you're doing. It's truly remarkable. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I look forward to updating our community as things unfold, and if anything new comes up, we'll report back to everyone. But Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom to you. Wonderful, wonderful talking to you guys.
So nice to see you. I always enjoy talking to you.
I can't wait to see you in person. There's a lovely, lovely apartment with a gym under it that I love staying in Santa Monica.
Well, the next time you come, you have to bring your baby and Kasha with you. You can't come alone. You're not allowed to come alone.
Because I think the baby, there's enough distance from where you sleep, so the baby will be all right. But I promise I will.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. Shabbat Shalom.
All right. Shabbat Shalom. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Be well, everyone. Thank you.
All right. Stay well.